After leaving the ancient ruins, Qin Mu and his group unexpectedly encountered Long Jaanon. She sneered at Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang, believing that the two women, who had only recently broken through to the Six Directions realm, were no match for herself and her red snake, both of whom had already reached the Seven Stars realm before Dragon Rider sect rebelled. Long Jaanon had even disguised herself as a man to serve as a general in the Eternal Peace Empire. Proving her strength and experience, she immediately attacked by unleashing the Dragon Python Swallowing Heaven spell. A gigantic python formed from her vital qi appeared behind her, opening its enormous jaws and drawing in the surrounding air as if it intended to swallow the two girls whole. Although Dragon Rider sect was not famous for spells, Imperial Preceptor's reforms had greatly strengthened their spell techniques, and Long Jaanon had cultivated this divine art to the samadhi state. Ling Yusho remained calm and raised the 9 dragons' weapons above her head. Heavenly lightning instantly gathered from the sky and struck the weapon, transforming it into the mighty 9 dragons' hammer. She brought the hammer crashing down against the enormous vital qi python. The explosive force of thunder instantly shattered the giant python and completely dispersed Long Jaonon's spell. Before Long Jaanon could recover from the shock, Si Yunxiang launched an attack with 1,000 silks. The nearly invisible thread shot toward Long Jaonon's eye while constantly changing forms into countless intricate sword techniques. Long Jaanon repeatedly flicked her fingers to intercept the attack, but the sword thread ignored her attempts to block it. She then swept her sleeve, creating a jade annulus from her vital qi to disrupt the incoming sword threads. However, Si Yunxiang had secretly prepared another sword technique with her hidden left hand. Realizing the danger, Long Jaanon hurriedly flew upward. Even so, her purple robe was instantly riddled with countless tiny holes, proving she had narrowly escaped a fatal strike. At that exact moment, Ling Yusho descended with the 9 dragons' hammer once again. Long Jaanon raised an arm to block, but the hammer exploded with flames and overwhelming force, sending her flying backward. Ling Yusho's 9 dragons monarch technique possessed immense magical power, and after Emperor Yangfeng's improvements, it perfectly combined battle techniques, sword skills, and spells. Even though Long Jaanon had a higher cultivation realm, she was caught off guard by the flawless coordination between Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang. After landing, Ling Yusho released the hammer, allowing the 9 dragons' weapons to separate into 9 dragon-shaped components before recombining into a brilliant mirror. Standing behind it, she activated its power, sending out a dazzling beam of golden dragon light that engulfed Long Jaanon while she was still being blasted backward. At the same time, Si Yunxiang rushed through the mirror's beam, using 1,000 silks to launch another deadly sword assault. Long Jaanon struck the ground with her palm, causing hundreds of sharp stone spikes to erupt upward, blocking both the mirror light and Si Yunxiang's attack. Realizing she was being overwhelmed, Long Jaanon shouted for her companion. Her enormous red snake suddenly lunged toward the two girls. The snake was as thick as a giant pillar, possessing immense physical strength capable of crushing them instantly. The true strength of Dragon Rider sect was never its cultivation techniques or divine arts, but the flood dragon-blooded serpents they raised. Long Jaonon's red snake possessed an exceptionally pure bloodline and was closely related to the Dragon King's flood dragon, making it powerful enough to dominate almost every expert in the Seven Stars realm. This snake had always been Long Jaonon's greatest support in battle. Just as the gigantic serpent was about to strike Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang, a scorching beam of light suddenly shot from behind it. The beam instantly sliced the snake cleanly into two. Half of its enormous body crashed into the surrounding forest, flattening countless trees. Standing beside the spirit pond behind the snake was Qin Mu, calmly controlling the jade eye that had fired the devastating beam. The wounded snake roared in agony before releasing a dense cloud of highly poisonous fog and charging directly toward Qin Mu with the remaining half of its body. Qin Mu refused to let the poison touch him, executing heavenly pilfering divine legs. He moved so quickly that the giant snake completely lost sight of him. Appearing high in the air, Qin Mu looked down and saw that the Solomon's Seal city hidden within the trees had been utterly destroyed. Every Solomon's Seal had either been slaughtered or captured. It was obvious that Long Jaanon had interrogated them about Qin Mu's group before mercilessly exterminating them. Although the Solomon Seals had little loyalty and had easily revealed information, Qin Mu still regarded them as benefactors because they had helped his companions. Seeing the destroyed city filled him with quiet anger. The wounded red snake suddenly leapt into the sky with its jaws stretched unnaturally wide to swallow Qin Mu whole. Qin Mu calmly adjusted the jade eye and fired another concentrated beam directly into its open mouth. The beam burned through the snake's flesh, pierced straight through its entire body and brain, then continued into the ground beneath it. The earth instantly melted into lava, and boiling steam rose into the sky before condensing into countless tiny stones that rained back down. Although the dying snake managed to swallow both Qin Mu and the jade eye during its final leap, its entire body had already been pierced through by the beam. Qin Mu emerged unharmed, landing lightly on the ground while the enormous snake collapsed behind him like a giant sack of roasted meat. Hearing her beloved snake die, Long Jaanon let out a miserable scream while continuing to battle Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang across the sea. Using the surrounding seawater, she transformed the waves into countless giant pythons that attacked from every direction. However, Ling Yusho's 9 dragons' weapons could instantly split into 9 dragon-shaped blades that destroyed the incoming spells or recombine into the 9 dragons' shield to block any attack. Meanwhile, Si Yunxiang's 1,000 silks became even more terrifying within the water. The nearly invisible weapon constantly disappeared beneath the sea before unexpectedly emerging above Long Jaonan's head or from her blind spots, making it impossible to defend against. The death of the red snake completely disrupted Long Jaonan's concentration, allowing Si Yunxiang to discover a fatal opening. 1,000 silks instantly transformed into an impossibly thin sword blade and pierced straight through Long Jaonan's heart, the tip emerging from her back. Before Long Jaanon could react, Ling Yusho combined the 9 dragons' weapons into the 9 dragons' hammer once again and smashed her entire body. Countless bones shattered, piercing through her flesh in every direction, leaving her body horribly mangled. Si Yunxiang withdrew 1,000 silks as Long Jaonan's corpse fell into the sea. Remembering that Long Jaanon still carried all of their spirit weapons, the 2 girls immediately retrieved her body before it could sink beneath the waves. Back on the island, Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang searched Long Jaonan's peyote sack, besides recovering all of their stolen spirit weapons and numerous valuable treasures. They found an enormous pile containing nearly 10,000 corpses of the Solomon's seals. The mountain of tiny human-shaped bodies filled Si Yunxiang with sorrow. She realized that this massacre was not simply an example of the strong preying upon the weak but an act of someone treating countless lives as toys simply to satisfy selfish desires. Qin Mu quietly explained that because the Solomon's seals were originally spirit herbs, they still possessed roots even after death. If replanted beside the spirit spring, they might one day revive. Without hesitation, the 3 of them spent the entire day carefully planting every single Solomon's seal back into the earth. By nightfall, all 10,000 had been replanted. Si Yunxiang gathered firewood while Ling Yusho fetched spirit spring water to nourish the newly planted Solomon's seals. Meanwhile, Qin Mu sorted through the treasures inside the peyote sack. He placed both jade eyes inside the bag and arranged more than 3,000 jade-quality luminous pearls across the beach, illuminating the shore with their soft radiance. Si Yunxiang entered the sea wearing only her simple white undergarments, caught a huge fish, dried herself with vital qi, and returned to prepare dinner. She was surprised to discover that Qin Mu had dragged both Long Jaonan's corpse and the 2 halves of the red snake beside the bonfire. When she asked what he was doing, Qin Mu calmly replied that he was guarding the corpse while waiting for Long Jaanon to wake up. Both Si Yunxiang and Ling Yusho laughed, believing such a thing impossible since Si Yunxiang had pierced Long Jaonan's heart and Ling Yusho had shattered almost every bone in her body. Qin Mu, however, kicked the corpse and coldly exposed Long Jaonan's secret, saying he had personally witnessed her shedding her skin before and knew this death was fake. He even drew the pig slaughter knife, declaring that before burying her, he would first chop off her head. Just as Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang wondered whether this strange custom came from the Great Ruins, the sound of splitting human skin suddenly came from the top of Long Jaonan's head, confirming Qin Mu's suspicion that she was still alive through a skin-shedding technique. Long Jaonan's scalp suddenly split open with a horrifying sound as another woman painfully crawled out from inside the discarded human skin. The grotesque sight shocked Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang into screaming before they realized they were instinctively hugging each other in fear. Qin Mu immediately took out his Qin jade pendant and wore it together with the emperor's disc. both of which had been recovered from Long Jaonan's Teodi sack. Since the Emperor's disc possessed the ability to ward off evil, it was especially suitable against such a terrifying scene. The woman slowly forced herself out of the old skin, coughing blood while broken bones were squeezed out along with her body. She emerged completely naked, her hair disheveled, and every movement was filled with agony. Ling Yusho quickly reminded Qin Mu to turn around, and although he muttered that he had seen such things before, he still respectfully looked away. After finally escaping the old skin, Long Jaanon collapsed from exhaustion. Her appearance had changed dramatically, becoming more than 10 years older than before. Si Yunxiang covered her with clothing and secretly examined her body, discovering that many broken bones still remained inside. Long Jaanon explained that her injuries had been too severe. This shedding had only repaired the wounds around her heart and some fractured bones, while the remaining injuries would require several more molds. However, every shedding consumed more than a decade of her lifespan, meaning she would continue aging rapidly each time. She assured them that she no longer had enough strength to threaten anyone. When Ling Yusho wondered whether the enormous flood dragon Xiaoang could also recover in the same manner, Long Jaanon sadly shook her head and explained that the dragon's head had been destroyed after its body was cut into two halves, making resurrection impossible. Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang immediately sighed in relief upon hearing that Xiaoang was truly dead. Qin Mu then smiled and questioned Long Jaanon about her father. He wanted to know where the Dragon King was hiding, who was with him, and why he wanted to meet him. Long Jaanon refused to answer. Qin Mu calmly sliced off a piece of Xiaohong's flesh with his vital qi and roasted it over the bonfire. As the fragrant meat sizzled and its fat dripped into the flames, Long Jaonan's pupils shrank at the sight of her companion being cooked. Qin Mu then reminded her that the Heavenly Saint cult's Justice Hall specialized in extracting confessions through countless ruthless methods, while Eternal Peace Empire's Ministry of Justice was equally terrifying. Since the assistant minister of the Ministry of Justice was also the Justice Hall master of the Heavenly Saint cult, he could easily hand her over for interrogation if she refused to cooperate. Long Jaanon coldly replied that although she had kidnapped them, she had never truly harmed any of them despite possessing the ability to cripple Qin Mu. Sever Ling Yusho's hands, or blind Si Yunxiang. She believed she had treated them courteously and expected to receive the same treatment now that she had become their prisoner. Qin Mu acknowledged her courtesy and promised not to mistreat her during the journey. But he stated that since she had rebelled against the empire, it was only proper for him to hand her over to the authorities for questioning. Even after hearing this, Long Jaanon remained silent, unable to obtain any information. Qin Mu sealed all of her souls and spirits with the heavenly devil creation technique, preventing any possibility of escape. He then told Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang that Fan Yunxiao should arrive within 1 to 5 days, so they would temporarily remain on the island while also observing whether the Solomon seals could revive. Si Yunxiang worried that Long Jaanon might escape and return to destroy the Solomon seals again, jokingly asking whether Qin Mu had spared her simply because she was beautiful. Qin Mu looked at Long Jaanon in confusion and sincerely replied that he did not think she was beautiful at all. Shocked by his answer, Si Yunxiang asked what kind of woman he considered beautiful. Qin Mu answered without hesitation that someone resembling Granny Si was beautiful, or someone slightly plump like Ling Yusho. He explained that Granny Si had always told him slightly plump girls looked better, while Apothecary had also said healthy girls should not be too thin. Ling Yusho secretly felt delighted upon hearing herself praised, while Si Yunxiang, who considered herself an exceptional beauty, was completely speechless. Qin Mu even commented that Si Yunxiang was too skinny and still looked younger than himself, adding that she would become prettier if she ate more but should avoid becoming overly fat. Si Yunxiang finally realized that Qin Mu's unusual standards of beauty came entirely from the strange teachings of the elders in disabled elderly village. This explained why he had remained completely indifferent even after seeing Long Jaanon and herself with almost no clothing earlier. Qin Mu deliberately spoke loudly enough for Long Jaanon to hear his true intentions. He explained that keeping her alive had nothing to do with compassion. Instead, she would serve as bait to lure out the Dragon King, since the Dragon King was a powerful sect master who had even raised a flood dragon. Qin Mu could never feel safe while such an enemy remained alive. He planned to hand Long Jaanon over to the Crown Prince and gather the Heavenly Saint cult's left and right guardians together with the Protector Elders. Once the Dragon King attempted to rescue his daughter, all of them would surround and kill him. Qin Mu stressed that the Dragon King's body must be completely destroyed, especially his head, because otherwise no one could be certain whether he possessed another method of revival. Long Jaanon trembled after hearing such a meticulous trap, realizing that her father would certainly die if he came to save her. She finally decided to reveal the truth. Long Jaanon revealed that someone had approached her father and asked him to invite Qin Mu to Heavenly Dragon Island because that person could not conveniently appear in public. The mysterious individual was none other than Dao Master. She explained that after Qin Mu rescued Emperor Yangfeng and slaughtered numerous Dao sect and Great Thunderclap Monastery experts during the Temple of Heaven battle, Dao Master became deeply concerned. He feared that Heavenly Saint Cult and Eternal Peace Empire would eventually join forces against Dao sect. Because personally meeting Qin Mu might cause misunderstandings with the Emperor, Dao Master secretly requested the Dragon King to arrange the meeting instead. Long Jaanon admitted that although she had behaved courteously toward Qin Mu throughout the journey, she had never forgiven him. Qin Mu had massacred many Dragon Rider sect disciples in Heavenwave City, while the Emperor later confiscated the sect's property and executed her entire clan. Her hatred was immeasurable. But Dao Master had once saved her father's life, making him her family's benefactor. Out of gratitude, neither she nor her father dared disobey his request. Qin Mu carefully analyzed the situation and concluded that Dao Master was not seeking peace with Eternal Peace Empire but specifically with Heavenly Saint Cult. The elderly Dao Master knew he had little time left to live. While he was still alive, he could negotiate peace and preserve Dao sect. Once he died, however, Dao sect would almost certainly be destroyed if conflict erupted with Heavenly Saint Cult. During the meal afterward, Qin Mu repeatedly offered Long Jaanon roasted shaoang meat, but despite his politeness she refused to eat even a single piece of her own flood dragon companion, choosing only to eat fish instead. The following morning, Si Yunxiang and Ling Yushuo awoke to discover that Qin Mu had already begun cultivating long before sunrise. He continuously walked around the island, across the sandy beach, over the ocean's surface, and sometimes even leapt into the clouds while circulating the Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. His objective was to integrate numerous cultivation methods into a single unified technique, allowing him to comprehend the unity technique of the Six Directions realm. Watching his relentless practice, Si Yunxiang believed his incredible talent was the reason for his rapid progress. In reality, Qin Mu had originally possessed extremely poor aptitude and was not even a spirit body. Had village chief not inspired him by convincing him he possessed the legendary Overlord body, he would have lived an ordinary life. The elders of disabled elderly village had poured countless miraculous medicines and resources into him while constantly encouraging his confidence. More importantly, Qin Mu himself cultivated harder than almost anyone else in the world. He firmly believed that if he failed to surpass others, it simply meant he had not worked hard enough. His current achievements came primarily from endless effort, unwavering determination, and countless hours of cultivation rather than innate talent or lucky opportunities. Inspired by his diligence, both Si Yunxiang and Ling Yushuo also immersed themselves in cultivation. Meanwhile, Long Jaanon quietly attempted another shedding in hopes of healing herself. But the process required too much strength. She knew that every additional molt would age her further, from a young woman into middle age, and eventually into an old woman, so she could not continue. Later that morning, Qin Mu returned to the spring to collect water for the Solomon seals. There he unexpectedly found an elderly Taoist wearing an old, faded Taoist robe. The old man gently scooped spring water with a leaf and carefully watered each Solomon seal one by one. Beside him stood a young disciple helping with the task. When the old Taoist noticed a fresh green sprout emerging from one of the previously dead Solomon seals, his aged face filled with joy. He gently touched the tiny leaf and remarked that these strange plants could still return to life after death, making them truly miraculous. Every movement of the old Taoist seemed perfectly harmonious with heaven and earth, as though he had completely merged with nature itself. Qin Mu approached respectfully and agreed that the revival was remarkable, though he wondered whether the revived plants would truly remain the same Solomon seals as before. He then formally introduced himself and respectfully greeted the visitor as Dao Master. Dao Master immediately returned the salute with equal courtesy before instructing his disciple. Daozi Lin Zan, to pay respects to Qin Mu as the human emperor of the current generation. Although Lin Zan was visibly surprised by this title, he did not question his master and immediately performed a respectful disciple salute toward Qin Mu. Qin Mu realized Dao Master had deduced his identity as the current human emperor from Daozi Lin Zan, who had previously witnessed the first move of village chief's sword picture, sword treading mountains and rivers, and reported it after returning to Dao sect. Dao Master had only been testing him, and Qin Mu neither denied nor confirmed it. While fetching water for the Solomon seal flowers with his vital qi, Qin Mu debated Dao Master about the meaning of following nature. Dao Master insisted that Dao followed nature, while Qin Mu argued that cultivation should be applied rather than merely preserved. Their disagreement reflected the fundamental differences between Dao sect and heavenly devil cult. So Dao Master chose not to continue arguing. After they finished watering the flowers, Dao Master announced that he had come to acknowledge Qin Mu as the human emperor and to introduce Daozi Lin Zan as his future successor as Dao Master. He explained that all cultivation sects had once received the grace of the first human emperor and had jointly forged the human emperor's seal from their greatest treasures, making the human emperor the symbolic ruler of humanity. When Qin Mu casually tossed the human emperor's seal to him, Dao Master was alarmed, carefully caught it with both hands, and criticized Qin Mu's disrespect toward such a sacred object. Qin Mu explained that village chief had always treated the seal casually, so he had simply followed his example. After respectfully returning the seal, Dao Master instructed Lin Zan that everyone except the human emperor must always receive and present the seal with the utmost respect because it represented the collective devotion of all human sects. Dao Master then revealed his true purpose. He urged Qin Mu to stop supporting the reforms of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and Emperor Yangfeng, believing their attempt to change the natural order had already incurred heaven's wrath. With the recent snow disaster serving as a warning, Qin Mu rejected this view, saying the world's general trend was like an unstoppable flood that no one could resist. Dao Master replied that reform sought to alter the Dao itself, which would inevitably bring consequences, and hinted that the great ruins had been created by a similar mistake made by their predecessors. Though he refused to explain further, he declared that although Dao sect opposed eternal peace, it would never regard the human emperor as an enemy. Dao Master then ordered Lin Zan to bring out the 14 writings of Dao sword, a stone tablet containing 14 sword forms. Although Lin Zan hesitated, Dao Master explained that he had once allowed Imperial Preceptor to study the same sword writings for 14 days. So there was no reason to deny the current human emperor the same opportunity. However, he refused to reveal Dao sect's precelestial supreme mystery technique. Qin Mu admired Dao Master's generosity, just as old Rulai had previously shown him Rulai's Mahayana Sutra. Not wishing to accept such a favor without repayment, Qin Mu offered Lin Zan 14 days to study the great educational heavenly devil scriptures. Dao Master accepted, telling his disciple that if he could preserve righteousness after studying it, he would remain a god. If he fell into evil, it would only prove his own cultivation and character were insufficient. Qin Mu began studying the 14 writings of Dao sword. The seemingly random sword marks gradually revealed profound sword intent filled with mathematical principles. The first form, a dot threading the vast movements, yin and yang come and go within two modes, embodied the binary system of yin and yang, which Qin Mu easily understood because of his mastery of the computational canon of supreme mystery. The second form, binding of 5 qi and 3 eons, rising on the spot, cloud chariots crossing, used ternary and quinary systems corresponding to 3 eons and 5 qi. And Qin Mu quickly comprehended it as well. The third form, 5-colored auspicious clouds cover, celestial sounds tinkling on the 3 heavens, further expanded the transformations of 3 eons and 5 qi, requiring him an hour to understand. The fourth form, turning heavenly cycles silently, meeting every manifestation of nature shifting, contained far more complex mathematical relationships, and Qin Mu only solved its mysteries by sunset. He realized the Dao sword became increasingly profound with every form and concluded that 14 days would never be enough to master all 14 writings. When Qin Mu began studying the fifth form, Jade Cave taking back myriad of transformations, romance on Kunlun Mountains, he discovered mathematical principles beyond those recorded in the computational canon of supreme mystery. believing they belonged to the computational canon of Mysterious Lady instead. Unable to fully comprehend them, he focused on absorbing the sword intent rather than solving every mathematical mystery. Meanwhile, Dao Master quietly sat beside him without eating. Qin Mu eventually left to eat with Ling Yusho and Si Yunxiang, who were astonished upon learning that the quiet old man was the legendary Dao Master. On the third day, Fan Yunxiao arrived by flying ship. The moment he saw Dao Master, he burst into tears and repeatedly kowtowed. Dao Master merely glanced at him calmly, stated that he had expected Fan Yunxiao to join Heavenly Devil Cult because his heart was not righteous, and dismissed him without punishment, saying he would not kill him. Fan Yunxiao cried bitterly before wiping away his tears and leaving. 5 days after Fan Yunxiao left, numerous people in strange outfits quietly appeared on the island and set up countless flags that formed a massive formation surrounding everyone. Hundreds of cultivators took fixed positions like stars in the sky, changing their locations every 4 hours to constantly alter the formation and prevent anyone, especially old Dao Master, from deciphering it. Ling Yusho recognized that the island had been trapped inside an enormous killing formation that would unleash devastating destruction if anyone attempted to force their way out. She also noticed many seemingly ordinary people from the imperial court among those maintaining the formation, including officials, executioners, peddlers, and scholars. Old Dao Master realized that the mastermind was the formation hall master of the Imperial College, a favored official of Emperor Yangfeng and a member of the Heavenly Devil Cult, who deliberately adjusted the formation every 4 hours because he understood Old Dao Master's ability to calculate its changes and intended to prevent Qin Mu from leaving alive. On the 14th day, Qin Mu finished comprehending the Dao sword from the stone tablet and thanked Old Dao Master for allowing him to study it. Dao Master respectfully returned the salute, explaining that as the human emperor, Qin Mu was worthy of learning the Dao sword, just as Rulai had shown him the Mahayana Sutra. Qin Mu revealed that he had already studied Rulai's scripture. Dao Master admitted Rulai had once again acted ahead of him and instructed Daozi Lin Zan to return the great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures to Qin Mu. Daozi respectfully complied, insisting that despite their similar ages, Qin Mu was still his senior as the human emperor. Qin Mu then questioned Daozi Lin Zan about his understanding of the great educational Heavenly Devil scriptures. Daozi admitted that his first impression was that nearly every passage was evil. But as he continued reading, the distinction between righteousness and evil gradually disappeared. After rereading the scripture, he realized his understanding had changed. Though he still believed 20% of it remained devilish, Qin Mu concluded that Daozi's Dao heart still contained 20% devilishness. Though he was already far better than Fozi Foshin, who had regarded the entire scripture as evil despite appearing outwardly like a Buddha. When Daozi asked Qin Mu how much of the scripture he considered devilish, Qin Mu explained that every passage was simultaneously righteous and devilish, with its true nature depending entirely on the user's heart. If one's heart was righteous, the scripture became righteous. If one's heart was evil, it became evil. The scripture's true power lay in the intentions of its user. Daozi was deeply enlightened by these words. Old Dao Master immediately interrupted, warning Daozi not to be deceived by Qin Mu's teachings of the Heavenly Devil Cult, which differed fundamentally from the Dao sect's doctrine of following nature. He cautioned his disciple never to forget that Qin Mu was not only the human emperor but also the cult master of the Heavenly Devil Cult and could one day become his greatest opponent. Qin Mu found the warning amusing but accepted it. Old Dao Master then asked Qin Mu about his comprehension of the Dao sword. Qin Mu replied that the mathematical principles behind the sword were extraordinarily profound and that its final moves seemed to transcend mathematics itself and approach the Dao. Dao Master explained that the Dao sword resembled the endless calculation of pi, just as pi had infinite digits beyond all calculation. The Dao was likewise endless and required no transformation because it had no limit. Qin Mu immediately realized that Old Dao Master was also attempting to spread the Dao sect's teachings to him and jokingly reminded him not to overdo it. Old Dao Master packed away the stone wall and advised Qin Mu to return to the Great Ruins as quickly as possible because of the many terrifying enemies surrounding him. He requested permission to take Long Jaanon back with him, explaining that she would never return after following his guidance. Qin Mu observed the Solomon's seals growing around the spirit spring before agreeing. He summoned Long Jaanon and asked whether she still intended to oppose him. She answered that because the Dragon Rider sect had been destroyed due to him, she had no choice but to remain his enemy. Qin Mu calmly replied that even without his involvement, the Dragon Rider sect would still have been exterminated because its destruction had been inevitable. He acknowledged her hatred but warned that if she attacked him again, he would kill her without mercy. Long Jaanon vowed she would also show no mercy. Qin Mu shook his head and told her she no longer had any chance against him, advising her to stop shedding her skin because doing so only accelerated her aging before telling her to leave with Dao Master. Standing beside old Dao Master, Long Jaanon realized that every encounter with Qin Mu revealed him to be much stronger than before, making her briefly question whether she could ever defeat him. However, her hatred quickly overwhelmed those doubts. Old Dao Master bid farewell. Qin Mu respectfully returned the salute, and all the hallmasters, guardians, and heavenly kings of the heavenly devil cult lined up to open a path for them. Old Dao Master departed with Long Jaanon and Dao Zilin Zan on a cloud. Qin Mu then dismissed the heavenly devil cult followers, although heavenly kings Yu and Wang remained out of concern for his safety. Qin Mu reassured them and sent them away as well, though Si Yunxiang believed they would not truly leave the vicinity. Ling Yusho then anxiously asked how they intended to leave the island after Qin Mu had dismissed all of their followers. Qin Mu admitted he had done so simply to preserve his dignity before his subordinates because the village elders had taught him never to lose face. He wondered whether Fan Yunxiao might return for them, but both girls laughed bitterly, convinced that he would never come back after how miserably he had fled. Left with no alternative, Qin Mu proposed traveling across the sea instead. Before departing, Si Yunxiang looked back at the spirit spring and wondered whether the Solomon seals would remember them after reviving. Qin Mu answered that although their bodies could return to life, he did not know whether their original souls and memories would return or whether entirely new souls would inhabit their revived bodies. Slightly saddened, Si Yunxiang followed Qin Mu and Ling Yusho as Qin Mu rode upon a wave shaped like a dragon's head, carrying the three of them westward across the sea. Elsewhere, Grand Shaman received news from Ponggong So and immediately left Roland's Golden Palace. After crossing the great ruins, snowy mountains, deserts, and finally reaching West Earth, he climbed its highest divine mountain, where only a sacrificial altar remained. Lighting 3 sticks of incense, he watched the smoke rise into the heavens until a green face appeared in the sky. Bowing respectfully, Grand Shaman announced that the new human emperor had appeared.